Welcome everyone. Welcome to week 5 of Soullab's 13-week program for Facebook group Come Together. My name is Kelly Nazat, and wow, so we've made it through the fire, and we made it through the first phase of water, which is very comforting, can be very comforting. And now we're dropping in to a deeper space, a little dimmer, a little darker maybe, a place of remembering, a place of reconnecting and revisiting things within that are deeper and more personal, more private, more painful, maybe more provocative, of course. And it is in this phase in particular, I believe, that keeps most of us from diving into the water. You know, the first phase of water is so calming, and it can be so incredibly nurturing when done well. There is this invitation in Water 1 to come back to this nurturing place of soul, of remembering, of being in Mother's arms and in the best way possible, the best mothering possible. In this nurturing way, it's fulfilling. You feel seen, you feel held, you feel witnessed, and you also have that part of your nature where you connect with the world in this way, where there's just this soulful, emotional intelligence guiding us through our day-to-day processes. Now, as you know, in the model, this follows all of that fiery movement, right? The beginning of the alchemy of transformation, they say there is this initial rush, this high, this spiritual high where we recognize that there is something to either run towards or run from, and that there's something within us compelling us to do better maybe, or to do more, or an adventure we're seeking, hopefully. There's something inside that says, I'm fired up, I'm illuminated to go out into the world. Then there's this movement out into the world to actually embrace that journey. The heroine, the hero takes that journey, right, and rushes out into the world. It's very fiery. It's very motivated by this willfulness to be in the world, to bring something into the world, whether it's healing, whether it's self-healing, or the healing of the world or other people, whatever we are rushing out into the world to do and to create and to express ourselves. The middle fire invites us to bring that fire out from our center of personal experience and bring it out into the world and actualize it, express that in the world. And it's a very important part of the process, because the final phase of fire is ultimately beyond all of the doing and the achieving and creating. All of that fire is to burn away what is impure about what is not our true nature, what in the fantasies and the desires, there is this need to burn away all the impurities, so we get to something of a phoenix rising from our true nature. Then that phoenix holds this space in a really good way, and that we would consider a bit of the spiritual evolution of it all. Now, that's that whole arcing dynamic, that sort of Icarus-like flight path through this airy world of awareness of who we are, why we're here, what we're here to do, and the spiritual inclination to grow in wisdom and develop ourselves. And on an alchemical level, it's definitely very egoic, and that's good. Everything above the horizon is allowing us to be in the world in a good way. That's part of the game of it, right? It's not just an inner experience, it's also outer expression of this inner knowing, or this inner calling, or this inner directive to be good medicine for our world, that brings us out and it compels us to face all of these things in order to achieve, in order to succeed, in order to create in the world. We're moving into areas where we might have been fearful before, or where we're fearful while we're doing it. But the spiritual movement says, just do it. Get out there, create, and the world will refine you in the process. So the final phase of fire just is that spiritual stage of higher education, of higher development, of where we embrace the learning through ritual, through an inherent and lived faith. There's no belief here, there is an experience that guides us as we move along. Now, if you notice in the model, the fire gives way to the water. So as we move out into the world and burn away the impurities to find something out there in the world that parallels sort of our ego nature, that parallels our inner nature, there is this movement towards coming back home. And so as we drop below the horizon and enter into that water realm, that is the invitation to let go of all that. There's a calling. At some point in our lives, we say, what is all of this about? What is all of this movement out in the world of building a persona that is refined and capable of delivering the medicine I'm here to do? All of these things that we're developing spiritually want to give way to something below the surface, something deeper that wants to bring us back home. Because there is this truth of our nature that the real work is an inner work, and all that we do outside is a reflection of that. And so as a reflection, as we dive below the surface of the water, and first we see our reflection diving in, and it invites us to see something deeper, to tap into an emotional part of our nature that we may have been avoiding or neglecting or otherwise, sort of polarized from, because we're so busy building ourselves in the world, building our businesses, building our practices, building up our way through the world in a good way. So water one is that point where it starts to come back towards that center line. We move out into the world, and this is that first part, that centripetal pull back in towards self. And it's going below the horizon, it's going below our conscious egoic self that can get so high, right? It's bringing it down below the surface. And in that place where meditation, where journeys, where visualizations can guide us, this is a place of remembering, of reconnecting with a source of wisdom, with that mothering, that feminine, that nurturing core that says, welcome back home. You know, if you've ever been away, I remember as a little boy, as a young boy anyway, I was away for high school throughout my high school career, and I would come back home a couple times a year, and I would see my mother at the end of the runway. And after being around a bunch of boys and priests and all that stuff for, the whole year, just to have my mother at the end of the runway and hold me in that way, like no one else could, no one else can, was a coming home, an embrace, a divine connection, an unconditional positive regard. That is that feeling of water one, of coming back home to what's essential and true about us, right? And there's nothing I've experienced quite like it. The only equal to that in this lifetime is actually meeting with my guides, my inner guides, my spirit guides, for the first time, and this feeling of being seen, but also being known on a level that I understand intuitively, inherently, that these beings know me better in some ways than I know myself. They're holding a space for me in a way that all of these ego developing, being out in the world and being so busy trying to create a way in the world, an adventure in the world, there's always this underlying part of us that's holding this space for something loving and something kind and something gentle. And so we're in that space of water one and dropping down into water two. So we drop into the water and we dive into the pond or the lake, and just below the surface the water is It's amniotic, it's nurturing, it's otherworldly in a sense. The feeling of you can't breathe in here. In the inner worlds you can certainly breathe, right? And so we breathe it in, and this nurturing in, and then we naturally will sink deeper. And one of the challenges I said before about reconnecting with our emotions for some, or maybe many, is that there is this fear of where that emotional connection will lead. Water, too, is that gauntlet, that place between this place of nurturing and this third phase of water, which is deep connection to Gaian wisdom, to Panchamama, to the collective, to higher consciousness, the higher mind, in the sense of being earth beings. This is the shamanic place of remembering, of reconnecting to a source of wisdom, a field of wisdom, worlds of wisdom, underworlds, higher realms, middle realms. But to get into them, we have to be able to move beyond this gauntlet of our fears. We have to move beyond the gauntlet of these inner challenges. In the fire realm, you'll see in the middle gauntlet to the fire, there are the projected shadows that we're challenged by, right? We see that there are others in the world that don't really get what we're creating, and it frustrates us, and naturally, right? And there is this sense that if only they could see, if only they could be a bit kinder, be a bit more open, be a bit more supportive, or whatever the projected issue is, there is this tug of war and this rubbing up against. Well, here in the middle water realm, all of those projections all of that light is turned back towards the source of where we come from, the source of where these projections come from. So when we dive into the water, that initial nurturing is just a place to hold, for us to drop in and breathe in love and reconnection with Source, and gentleness and kindness, and this openness and this feeling of fairness and trust, and a courage to let go of all the ego striving, to let go of the ideals of our spiritual and our air and fire realm type personality stuff, the mind and the intuitive fiery part of our nature, to just come back home to Mother. And the water, as a fire purifies our nature, burns away the impurities, so that the phoenix of a new way, a new being, a new egoic state of consciousness can rise. The water realm is the gift from the water, this mother who invites us to become a little bit more real, to face the things we've denied about ourselves and about the world, to be able to hold the pain, the suffering, in a good way. And I suppose it's a big thing, to hold the pain of this world. How do you do it without drowning? Well, in alchemy they say there is no such thing if you want to proceed. The shamanic work, it's the courage is for the big giveaway, the releasing, the letting go of everything you thought was real. Everything you think and imagine about what you construct about reality. How willing are you to let that go now and just be with what is? To be in the heart, Peter Gabriel, my love, has this saying that says, the actor is gone and there's only you and me. Don't be afraid to cry at what you're seeing. Don't be afraid to see what's within that has been neglected, that has been burdened, that has been broken. Because in this realm, all things that can drown are meant to drown. It's a way of nature. It's the cycles of earthly existence. And it taxes our spiritual nature that's not from the cyclical place of spiraling repetition of refining in this way. It can seem awfully brutal to us all. But it's the way of this world, and it's why we came. So there is this invitation to let go, to drown, to become a hollow bone. And in this way, this is the beginning, the irony of it all, the paradox of it is that this is the beginning of something new. Each time we die away to an old part of our nature, there is this simultaneous invitation for a higher wisdom to come through, for a peak of that Gaian wisdom to, to receive, to release the projections of knowing, that specious sometimes field of intellectual and fiery, intuitive presence of the actor. To release out of that, this is the realm of letting go. So we face our fears. We hold our fears. We stop running from the dragon. You know, if this were a video game, and it is kind of a video game, but if this were a video game, if I had designed it, I would never invite my players to level up to the next level until they're willing to turn and face the dragons they've run from on this level. So what are the dragons you are running from on this level of your life at this time? This invitation is to turn and face our dragons. The dragons of the world are our dragons. That's why we're experiencing them as an external experience. It's a great illusion. It offers us the opportunity as this dissociative distance to be willing cognitively or on some spiritual level to say, this is really fucked up. And this is the world. But this is us. And this is owning that, facing those fears, turning and looking at the dragons that we projected onto the world and seeing what is there to own here. I mean, so many times I've looked at all my projected shadows and I'm saying, certainly that's not me. But now, it doesn't take long, just a little introspection, and I find it in me. And it's a good thing, because now I can face it. I can turn and face it and stop running from it. Breathe into it. And with this spirit of Ho'oponopono, you know, this of love and forgiveness and gratitude, of owning that part, and then holding space for redemption, for transformation of this part. Because I truly believe our reason for being on this planet, in part, is to be a witness. To witness, to be the nurse triaging these aspects of reality that are tweaked, that are in disharmony. But not to suffer them, but to face them so that we can be the ones to transform them. So that we can be the agents of change in these little micro moments, you know? In these moments of taking that courageous step and facing what you fear most, owning it, owning the shadows, loving it, forgiving it, and being grateful for it. Because as Jung said, our shadows are our allies in disguise. The very thing you're running from is the agent, the agency that is going to help you level up. Not only help you level up, but it'll help you on these next levels of attainment. So until you're willing to face those things that you've denied about yourself, that you keep running from, there is no good reason to level up. It takes courage. It takes compassion. It takes a releasing all of that darkness that you've been holding for all of this time, this heaviness. To be released, to be redeemed, to be rebooted, to let it go. That's it. That's a redemptive process. It's not to be judged or valued in the sense of your worthiness based on how you've walked this walk. Of course, we walk in the light and the darkness. But it's our ability to release the darkness back into the light, to refine it, to own that is, I think, the work. So we face these dragons, we transform them into allies, and we do it for our ancestors. We do it for our children. We do it for all of humanity. And what greater gift can we give the world than the gift of redemption in these acts of divine love, of unconditional positive regard for those dark parts of our nature. To receive the wisdom that transforms from this darkness. To be able to hold space for this very frightening, very scary part of our nature. To be the one to have heaven and earth transform, this part of our nature, like fairy godmother for these parts, right? And to see it come into this higher state of being is a sacrifice of our sacred wounds. Sometimes it's so hard to let go of what hurts us so much because it's ours. It's part of our memories. It's part of our ancestors. It's part of what makes us human, this pain, this hurt. But the spiritual side says, yes, drop into your heart and be present with it. But do the work and redeem it. Hold the space. Call heaven and earth to redeem this part of your nature. And you do this for all of nature. So there is this receiving of the transformation. What is it like when that part of you, that or part of myself that has challenged me so, and I've fought against, or I've denied, or I've hidden below that fiery persona, when I own it, when I transform it, like Frog the Prince, what does it transform into? What does it become? What is the medicine and the poison? And it's in that point of receiving, to all over your being. Every cell is alive and a being, a universe within itself, and every part of your being receives this new way and comes back home, a redemption, a micro-redemption, right? And it happens over and over again. So we receive, and we tune in and turn up the signals of this new way that was gained through this redemptive act. And then we transmit into the world, into the matrix, this medicine, and hold space for the change, inviting in this transformation, inviting in this medicine back into the world as a gift offering to humanity, to the next 7 generations, all the way back to our ancestors. We do this for all. To witness the change, to be this nodal point in this matrix that allows for this recalibration to occur, sort of the game as I see it. So the middle water realm really holds an amazing space for this, right? It's an amazing space. It's so vital and important. The things that are most dark to you, the things that are most painful for you, the things that make you all too human, are the very things that are yours to hold and transform. It's a soulful act. It's not a fiery spiritual, it's a deep, watery, realm that we keep dropping into deeper and deeper and deeper. Embracing a love, a wisdom we rarely get to tap into on this planet. And it's there, it's here, it's synapsing. It's not somewhere else, it's here. It's embedded in the matrix of this world. It is emanating like atmosphere, like fish swimming in water. We are surrounded by it. But it's us that needs to breathe it in, breathe it through that membrane of protection, that membrane of self-preservation, that membrane of knowing, that membrane of being, to receive something to help us come back home, to transform. And in that place, as we receive that and transmit it back out into the field, into the interstitial connection with all the other cells of the universal body of the One, we are participating in this infinite dance, this universal dance that has been going on since consciousness began. It's that breathing it in and the breathing it out, and a release and a sinking down beyond the darkness, beyond the fears, beyond the small deaths and the big deaths, to release into something much bigger, this place where we all become one again. And in this place we remember who we are. We remember the power of this collective intelligence that guides us. So for this week, it's all about this middle path, this gauntlet of letting go, releasing what is no longer yours to hold, in the sense that it's time to transform it into something of a positive emotion. This is not Pollyannic, this is the work. When a body is in harmony, it feels good. When a body is not healthy or well, it feels bad. There's no judgment, there's just an isness about it, right? And we are processes, constant processes. So we're working this field and we're working our nature in order to bring back that harmony. So yes, peace, joy, love, wellness, security, at oneness, this feeling of connected with the all, that is our true nature, and we can embody that. And as we do so, we become more than. We become a collective that truly is transformative, and that this world is in desperate need of at this time. So, I love this realm. I don't know if you can tell. But I hold a space for all of you suffering in your way. I hold a space for all of us that are suffering the slings and arrows of this life, this planet, this human being, the darkness that surrounds us. It's real, and it always will be. But it seems to be about what are we, who are we, what can we bring in, what are we here to bring, who are we, why. The water realm is why. Why are you here? Why do you suffer so when you can transform it into something quite extraordinary? That's the medicine work. So for this week, we're going to follow that through. Now, on that note, I think on here, and definitely on patreon.com/Soullab, we're going to offer guided journeys. I want to teach the inner smile work from the Taoist perspective. It's a great shamanic practice that teaches you how to bring all of your emotions into balance every day, just like brushing your teeth. Or if you have a negative emotion like depression, you can bring that in harmony just by breathing white light in and out of the lungs, white metal, and smiling into your being, this ancient being. So we'll have wonderful journeys to share that helps us get through this stuff. It's not, I mean, yes, if you're going down a raging river and it's harsh and cruel and you're doing it on a log, it's gonna hurt. but you can also build a beautiful raft. You know, you could do this wonderful whitewater rafting trip out of it. It all depends on how you're holding this space and what type of vehicle you create for yourself, to the submarine to dive deep, the raft to ride the rapids. This all depends on how you do it. And so this is we're preceding the earth realm into really getting into how do we do this in a good way. The water realm is simply getting us into a deeper state of why. Why are we here? Why are we doing what we're doing? And why don't we change it? And how do we do that right? So thank you guys for joining in. I'm sure I went way over the 15 minutes. I'm desperately trying for that. But this is an important stage. If we can face what we've denied in our own nature, so we can hold space for this resurrection, this redemption of these shadowy parts of our own nature, we do it for the world. So everyone join in to Soullab and check out the memes around this dark, transformative, and incredibly powerfully generative and nurturing part of our nature. The water realm has so much to offer us. So I hope you get that as you watch the offerings and learn some of the tools and techniques that are being shared here. This is a sacred place. This is a place of undoing, to let go of the old, to enter into a space of receiving something new, something divine that's there and waiting. I love you guys. Thank you for being a part of this. So many wonderful things ahead. Next week we'll enter into the dreamy place of the final face of water, where we're really tapping into that Gaian wisdom, that place that we go on our journeys and our ceremonies and in our practices to tap into something of a collective wisdom that raises us up, that gives us a reason to be here, that gives us medicine to be in service. So this week has great value. Push through it, move through it, hold that space, and feel that love and support. None of us can do this alone. That's the whole point of Soullab, is to come together so we can support each other from the places we are strongest, and so that you can support us in the places that we are most challenged. Together we are so much more, and together we can make a big difference in the world. I love you guys. Have a great day. Bye.